to Slipstream League Racing Tier 2 race day. It is here in Qatar. My name is CM Punk, joined today by Tier 2
Horizon. Hello, everyone.
and we are going to be doing a commentary on the Qatar Grand Prix, another race in Tier 2, which is currently standing on a very interesting situation. We got two championship rivals going toe-to-toe, as we got Lepson and Eversnacks going on standing on equal points in the drivers championship at the moment, both standing on 74. Keyboard Magnussen being P3, the championship absent as of right now on the grid, but we do have John Wick, who is just a couple of points behind them. So the drivers' championship battle is still on. When it comes to constructors' title, Ferrari are in the lead with 107 points. 74 points right behind them is McLaren. On 63 stands Kick Sauber, and then Mercedes with 60. The rest is Red Bull, Haas, Williams, RB, Aston, and Alpine at the bottom. And tonight we'll be doing a Qatar Grand Prix to see who's going to be able to hold his lead after tonight. Is Ferrari and Lepson going to be able to push themselves through, or is it going to be Eversnacks and McLaren who will prevail? With 17 minutes left to go, we begin the qualifying session in Qatar. This is going to be an interesting one for sure. Not too many possible risky situations here in Qatar, I expect. However, there are some places where drivers don't supposed to be overtaking other drivers, but they will surely try to do so, as we do know and love some of our tier 2 drivers, and we usually expect some top guys standing at the front of the pack. But Horizon, who do you think is going to surprise us today the most? Someone from the tops, maybe someone from the midfield will show his claws? What do you think?
I expect much performance from Lepson because he had much practice, he had much time. Um, Sadly, Eversnacks had. Oh, he said testing today. Eversnacks had some technical issues yesterday and today again, but hopefully, I'm having some heavy legs. We don't want to mention that. And yeah, he had some technical issues, but hopefully he fixed it. And yeah, I have much hope for Lepson. And Boosted Mess is going for a hot lap now. Let's hop onto it and watch how he's performing. And there's much music going on.
There's plenty of internet connections as of right now with Boosted Mess. We did had a Steam issues just minutes before the qualifying session has even begun. We have Lepson leaving the game as of right now, and we have to wonder what is the cause of that, as the championship leader has now disconnected from the lobby. Let's hope he'll be back soon. We want to see the fight going on the track, not off of it. I can see Eversnacks putting a purple sector 1 on his first hot lap in the McLaren. Of course, not everybody made the first sector as of right now yet, but this will soon be decided after the first lap. We're going to see what we're dealing with. As a Boosted Mess, he should be the first person to accomplish a hot lap on this track. A very quick track with a lot of possibilities for good racing, of course. Not a lot of tight corners where you have to squeeze yourself in, but a lot of straights where you have to use the DRS well. You have to use your battery very intelligent. You cannot just waste your battery all the way through here in Qatar. Here comes Boosted Mess. The first lap of the session is done, 123.072, and now following him through is a Ferrari of Ocean Chief, beats his time, 122.671, and now who's gonna try to challenge Scuderia driver as the other are making their way across the finish line? João Santos, the Portuguese driver, and Haas is making the fastest lap so far. Will goes P3 with 122.709. Great time from the Portuguese driver. However, John Wick, one of the title contenders as well, sitting at P4 at the moment, goes fastest, is now topped by Vlad Red. Good timings from the Aston and Mercedes drivers. Both went underneath 122, the only two drivers to accomplish this feat so far. Lepson is back in the lobby. Let's hope with no further issues. In the meantime, João Santos' teammate, Sim Soares, has now made a P4, also in a Haas. Great timings from those Portuguese Haas drivers showing up on the Tier 2 grid. And we have Boosted Mess having some issues as well with the connection. We do have a lot of desync problems, like you mentioned before. Crowley Voice is about to finish his first hot lap as he's right now working on it through Sector 2. We should also have Eagle Ghost on a hot lap as well. He just begun his own. And the rest of the drivers either done with their first hot lap or they are now heading into the pits to recover and prepare for the second one, as the Alpine of Crowley Voice is heading for the final sector around the final corners of the Qatar track. And as he goes across the finish line, where is he going to put this Alpine? He's not going to put it anywhere else but the garage, as he's coming in right now. So only 8 drivers managed to put the time on the board so far, with Vlad Red being the fastest of them all with 128.812, just a bit faster than John Wick. So far, Mercedes versus Aston Martin. Eagle Ghost is working on his lap, so maybe the second Alpine will put the time on the board during this lap time. During this lap, as we are still waiting for times of his Magnetic, Eversnax, the championship rival, Askin, no idea. Prost,
Austin.
basically. Yeah, we're gonna have Prost, Larson, Crowley Voice, Lepson, and Joel still working to delivered time in the qualifying session with 12 minutes to go here in Qatar. This race is going to be important when it comes to tire management, because this track is going to be causing a lot of tire degradation all over the place. And we have time from Eagle Ghost going P3, the third driver to go underneath 122 in that Alpine. It's a good time for him as we're awaiting the rest of the grid to fill the places, with Magnetic being now on a hot lap. Surely, yes, he's just begun his quick lap in that Mercedes. And of course, the battery management, because the battery is going to be such an issue for a lot of drivers. We know that many of them don't know how to use them properly, and they usually just burn it all the way through on lap 1, 2, and 3, and they just can't get replenish it, so they're gonna have to be very careful about this one. We have some yellow flags in sector 1, some drivers letting other pass. Magnetic has invalidated his lap time, so the Mercedes driver is gonna have to go for one more round with 11 minutes left to go. And John Wick goes fastest as of right now, 121.630. That's a great time from the Mercedes driver. And Futuristic has retired from the session, being at P9. He retired in the garage, no idea why is that. But the Williams driver does retire from the qualifying session, as he's P9 as of right now. But that's because the rest of the grid hasn't made their times yet, so he might stay a bit higher than the bottom, but it seems like he's going to be sitting pretty low at the end of the qualifying session. And now we await the opposition to try and improve. We got João Santos on the hot lap as of right now, as he's working through the second sector, improving a bit in the first one. His teammate on an out lap, Will, is on a hot lap, so we got a couple of drivers attempting to improve. See how this is going to go down, as we got about 10 minutes left of qualifying session to go. Got some yellow flags. That's Mercedes going slow. And we do have some times on the board as of right now. Prost goes P6. Eversnax has finally set lap time, and just barely, but he beats John Wick as he goes 121.621. That's a great time for the McLaren. Just enough to beat John Wick, but it's very tight between the top 4 as of right now, and it's going to be getting even closer as the session is going to come closer to an end. We're now waiting for Crowley Voice, Larson, Magnetic, Lepson, and Joel to put the time on the score sheet as we're awaiting their timed laps. Eversnax being the fastest so far. John Wick will surely try to improve. Vlad Red is on an out lap, so he will be preparing for improvement. João Santos still sitting at P5 with his teammate right behind him in P6. And we have some game issues, as we just see, at least from my perspective, I saw the internet connection issues. How about you, Horizon? Everything fine?
Kinda. The internet disconnection symbol didn't show up, but in general, I have much desync going on. You too?
Ooh, I don't have as much of a desync, but I do have a lot information about a lot of drivers like leaving the session every now and then, and do experience some issues. Like for example, I was just reconnecting for a second there. I'm not sure why. Yeah, like we said, the Steam is having some issues, but we're trying to work through them. Especially the person who's trying to work hard right now is Vlad Red, who's on a quick lap and is trying to put the time on the board with Lepson back into a lobby again. Lepson is struggling heavily with those internet conditions. He said in the chat that he keeps getting kicked from the lobby. This is not a good news, for the championship rival of Eversnax, who is sitting at provisional pole position at the moment. And as it seems right now, Lepson, all he can do is just pray that he can somehow return to the lobby and put a time on the board, or at best, just someone will beat Eversnax, because as of right now, he's at the bottom of the board, and Eversnax is at the very top, with Vlad Red invalidating his lap time, so the Aston Martin will have to go for another round. Lepson teammate, in the meantime, Ocean Chief, is working on an improvement, sitting at P4. Can he go anywhere higher? Finishing the final sector of the Qatar truck. For the final corner he goes, sitting at 121.832 as of right now. He goes into the pits. The signing is not going to be this time. And now we wait for some other drivers to make their times. The only drivers with no time so far are Joel, Lepson, and Larson. Magnetic is P11 as of right now. Crowley Voice went for P7. Those are the times of drivers who we didn't have so far, with a couple of minutes in the session left to go. We're still waiting for Lepson. Can he somehow get back into the game with these issues and make a decent lap, at least decent enough to get closer towards Eversnax, not even mentioning actually beating him? This would be incredible if he will be able to join last second and beat his championship rival. But as of right now, it all seems it's going to go down the way of McLaren, as Eversnax is sitting first, not very comfortable, as John Wick is right behind him. Vlad Red has some potential, but as of right now is working with is currently dealing with some track limit issues. Has he invalidated another lap in this session? Ocean Chief in the pits, the Haas heads into the pits. Other drivers experiencing some more internet connection issues as we are awaiting for the final moments of the session with 6 minutes to go. Can someone beat Eversnax, as John Wick has now begun his hot lap, which could be his last hot lap if he decides to just go for only one more round, unless he will try to go for one more after this one. He does put in the purple first sector. This is looking promising for the Mercedes driver. The second one is going to be the most important. It's the most curvy one on the whole track. The final sector is pretty much the easiest one to complete, so all he has to do right now is just focus for the second sector and make it count. Can he do it? John Wick, as he rounds up another corner, so far looking good. The Mercedes driver under some pressure, as he does still have a chance at the championship, but he does have to get better than Eversnax, and he does in the second sector. Another purple from John Wick. This is looking very promising for the Mercedes as he rounds up the final sector, and here he comes down the final main straight. Can he do it? With 121.621 is to beat. John Wick delivers 121.331, which is far more than he needed, and he does, as of right now, sits in provisional pole position with 5 minutes in the qualifying session to go. Of course, Eversnax is not going to give it up. He's trying to improve, but after the first sector, it's only a small improvement. Surely not enough to beat his opponent, who just set a huge margin between himself and the McLaren. The rest of the grid from the top, that is Vlad Red, Ocean Chief, and Simo Soares, are still in the pits. João Santos has been de-ranked down to P8 after the Alpines have made some improvements. Prost at P9 and Wiesel closing the top 10. We still have no word about anyone else from the bottom except for Lepson, who finally managed to get onto the track, so the Ferrari driver and the championship rival of Eversnax and John Wick will actually appear on the track with just a couple minutes left to go. He will deliver a lap time, and it's going to be P3 with 121.647 with 4 minutes left to go. That is a pretty decent time from Lepson, especially looking at the fact he only had one quick lap in this session, unless he can very rapidly get back to the pits and go for one more round. If that's going to be the case, he's going to have two opportunities at pole position. As of right now, he's P3, not even in the top row, as John Wick is, as of right now, looking very, very promising. I don't think we expected this much from a Mercedes driver, but he's definitely putting the effort. Eversnax still not giving up yet. He's still thinking about that pole, as he's on the front row right now, and Lepson will surely try to rebound. We also cannot exclude Vlad Red, Ocean Chief, and Simo Soares, and the Alpines, who were able to go underneath 122. Basically, the entire top 8 has managed to accomplish that. The rest of the grid didn't have enough pace as Boosted Mess is still fighting the internet connection. Joel has now begun his first hot lap of the session with 3 minutes to go. So the Lepson is not going to be the only driver who is struggling with putting in a decent lap. Right, and we only got
a purple sector for Joel. Looks very promising for him. Setting his first lap for today and his final lap also. He doesn't have time for a second lap, for a second chance. This is the only one he got. And through he goes through sector 2. We will see if it's gonna improve or if it's gonna be purple. No, it isn't. But still, purple 1 sector. We will see if that's enough for a pole position.
Finally completes the third sector, heading into the final corner. And now, where is this Red Bull gonna go? He's gonna split Mercedes and McLaren. Is he gonna challenge them for provisional pole position? Joel 8 across the finish line he goes, and he goes P10. Disappointing for a purple sector in a hot lap. Surely he was expecting more than that, as Red Bull is sitting at P10 as of right now. The top 3 all currently in the pits. Eversnax heading onto the track, followed by his rival John Wick and Lepson behind him. What a picture of 3 championship rivals heading out for the final time in this session on the track to give us one more lap. Absolutely beautiful sight, as Eversnax leading John Wick, followed by Lepson on the track. While in the scoreboard we have John Wick still sitting at provisional pole position, followed by Eversnax and then Lepson in third. One more lap to go, ladies and gentlemen, for everybody who wants to make it count. Do it right now, as we're running out of time in the session. And as of right now, John Wick is opening the board, and both Williams drivers are closing it, as we got Futuristic in P15 and Larson P16. Keyboard Magnussen, return of the century. Another championship contender is back with 1 minute to go. I'm not sure he's gonna make it lap. I mean, he can definitely try to start it, but I'm not sure he's gonna finish it. As we got Kick Sauber, #1 driver, back on the grid, so he's gonna be in the race. Gonna have a very tough time going for the bottom of the grid, but still good to have him back in here. This will mean we're gonna have top 4 of the Drivers' Championship all in the race. And now it's a matter of who's gonna start it off from P1, as all top 3 drivers are coming closer towards the finish line to begin their final hot laps. And it's most likely gonna be between those 3 for pole position, unless we're gonna have some surprise from somewhere else. But this is who should we focus on right now. It's Eversnax, it's John Wick, it's Lepson for pole position. Here they go, and we're gonna see who's gonna have the fastest sectors after one another. Eversnax, as he just begun the hot lap, and Lepson, he actually managed to overtook John Wick on a warming up lap on the outlaps. So now he's going to be ahead of the Mercedes driver. So Eversnax is going to be crossing the line first, then Lepson, then John Wick. The session is officially over. Now we just wait for the drivers to round it up. Keyboard Magnussen, of course, going to start from the very bottom, as he didn't have time to put the time on the board. We got Joel 8 finishing P12 at best, and Eagle Ghost P6 at best, as they're done with their session. And now Eversnax heading to the second sector, the McLaren, trying to stay in the fight for pole position, as John Wick is so far untouchable in this session. Can Eversnax actually throw a fight to a Mercedes driver? Ocean Chief heading into the pits, sitting at P5. Vlad Red also into the pits at P4. Doesn't seem like anyone from the bottom is going to go for pole anytime soon. We got Crowley Voice jumping up into the P5. Good job from the Alpine driver. And now it's all going down to this one final straight after that final corner. Here they come. Eversnax. Can he improve? Can the McLaren fight for pole? He will try as he crosses the finish line. Where is he going to go? He's going to go for P2 with improvement. Not enough for him. John Wick even more improving. Simo Suarez out of nowhere goes for P3, and Lepson fails to improve. John Wick is on pole position for Qatar Grand Prix, followed by McLaren, and then Haas, completely out of nowhere, catches us off guard, goes P3, pushing down Lepson to P4.
A great qualifying tonight here in Qatar, and we have the standings. John Wick first, then Evers next, and out of nowhere Sim Suarez, but he is known as a very fast driver. Um, Lepson also fourth, also very good pace. I thought he would be higher, but not gonna not gonna lie, I couldn't blame him. It's a great time. Yeah, so then there's not much time left. Sorry for the other guys.
Don't worry, we'll have all the time in the world during the race because this is gonna be a lengthy one. Looking at how many laps they go through on these long straights as we head into the race already. Now the question is, can John Wick hold on to that lead that he fought for so hard into turn one? There is a McLaren up in the front. They do have a tendency of
uh,
dropping positions after the first corner, but that is real life, not the
my
game.
game just randomly crashed.
Ooh.
That's a big
Yeah,
problem.
that's not good. Thankfully, at least I can see the game, but yeah, that's like half of the success that we need. So yeah, let's try to work on that. Hopefully, it allows you to reconnect because if we're just gonna miss the start, it's just too bad. But if we're gonna miss the whole race, it's gonna be awful. So apologies for the technical issues. We're gonna try to figure it out. If the race will begin, I will definitely let you guys know. We're gonna have an OG radio style commentary with no picture, just me and what I can see and what I can tell you right now. So let's hope we can somehow fix it before the race starts. And the race is going green. How we're looking horizon? No video.
Sadly no. I'm currently
Okay.
trying to reconnect. Give
All
me
right,
a minute.
we're gonna work on that as we go green. Trust me, we really are. As John Wick is pulling away nicely, but here comes Eversnux down the inside line. Can McLaren do it into turn one? Yes, he can. He picks up the lead. Can he hold on to it? Yes, he does. Eversnux is now into the lead. John Wick fighting back, pushing McLaren away, and he does regain the position. John Wick survived first attacks. Simo Soares also defending nicely. Lepson, he dropped heavily. Lepson is down to P11. What's happening to the Ferrari? He's down to P12. Lepson with horrendous start. He was in a ghost mode for a second. Might be some kind of issues with bumping into other drivers as he's down to P14 already. It's a nightmare for the Scuderia driver as John Wick is leading us for the first lap, and we have another position swap. Lepson fighting for survival in there as we have multiple drivers leaving the track in the back. The top is so far stable, but the back of the pack is absolute carnage as Lepson now stabilizing his position. It's P14. He's now reconnected. He was AFK. Lepson was not for the start. That's the cause of its dramatic downfall down to P14. What an awful beginning of the session for Lepson. Even worse of the race. In the meantime, Vlad Red has finally managed to overtake Simo Soares to go for P3 as the Haas is now in a ghost mode trying to overtake him again. And Soares counters attack, and the Portuguese is back in top three. First lap is down the hatch as John Wick is again under pressure from Eversnux. A lot of overtakes on the main straight as we do have John Wick still in the lead with Eversnux now being pushed by the Portuguese Haas driver and Vlad Red trying to stay in the fight as well with Ocean Chief being about half a second behind him. You can see we finally get back the picture. That's great as
Yeah,
we
we
have
got it.
very good. Oh, we have a huge moment for Crowley voice as he almost ran out of track unless it was a desync. I think it was a desync because he actually didn't lost too much time. Now I'm suffering with desync as well. And I think other drivers are too because I can see a lot of ghost cars on the track as Joel 8 makes an overtake ahead of Prost to gain P8. We have yellow flag. What was the cause for that? It's Lepson. Lepson has left the game and it's a DNF. Lepson has, I believe, given up after trying to fight against his internet connection, and one of the main championship rival has left the race. He will not be back into it, and it's down to P17 for the Scuderia Ferrari driver as John Wick is in the lead still holding on. Eversnux racing him thoroughly. Eversnux in a great spot. He's in P2. He's gonna gain a lot of points if this was to finish like this. Keyboard Magnussen with the first penalty of the day on only lap 2. And here we go, another main straight. Eversnux has a lot of slipstream. He is quick. He's fast enough. He's gonna go to the left-hand side of John Wick. John Wick under huge pressure. Here comes Soares as well, but he's not gonna capitalize on this one. Eversnax will. We have a new race leader again. McLaren is back into the lead as now John Wick is demoted to second with Simo Soares right on his tail, and Haas driver will try to find a way to overtake the Mercedes champion. As of right now, we do have an interesting fight in the top. The midfield and the bottom are also squished together heavily. The only gap we have got is Joel 8, creating a gap between himself and Eagle Ghost. And those are basically two huge trains, with Magnetic and Larson not being able to ride on board of any of those. But Eversnax is leading this huge train starting from P1 all the way down to P8, while Joel is leading the train started at P9 going all the way down to P14. So those two separate worms, you can call them, snakes even, they're gonna be fighting each other heavily. However, at the end of the day, this track is all about a strategy, so overtaking as of right now will not give you too much of an advantage. Eversnax could be an example, as John Wick will surely use a DRS any moment now, and Slipstream to try to regain the leading position. In the meantime, Ocean Chief seems to be closing up on Vlad Red, and Simo Soares dropped just a bit from John Wick. Eversnax puts the fastest lap of the race, but still John Wick is gonna go for it. He will go for it down the inside, and he will make it count. Lap 4, another overtake by John Wick for the lead, and Eversnax down to P2. This is gonna be a scenario we're gonna see a lot today, happening often, as this is a track that just does allow you for a lot of overtakes when you look at the DRS zones, when you look at the lengths of those straights. And Lepson has just spoken the chat. I'm legit fuming, and I can understand his anger, as he was genuinely very quick after making only 1 or 2 laps in the qualifying session. He qualified P4, but he wasn't allowed to fight for championship points, which will be very important for Eversnax. He's in a great spot right now. All he has to do is finish in that, not even top 2, maybe top 5. It's still going to be good. Anything in the points now will be good, because he will extend the lead over Lepson, and he'll become a solo leader for the Drivers' Championship. As of right now, he was equal with Lepson, but if he even picks up 1 point tonight, he will be leading the Drivers' Championship, as John Wick, of course, will gain a lot of points from this one, especially to Lepson, but Eversnax will still be ahead of John Wick. There's nothing John Wick can do unless Eversnax does not finish in the points in this race, and there's a long way to go, so let's see what's gonna happen. It's the whole of top 8 still bunched up closely, and Joel trying to get closer towards them, but it's going to be very tough for him without DRS. John Wick losing the lead again. They were getting very close against each other with Eversnax, but he did back it off. There's no point in John Wick and Eversnax banging wheels as of right now. They should avoid contact and just head all the way through to the pits without causing any commotions. So we are done with the start sequence. It was a lot of carnage early on, especially with the desync and internet connection, which we do not like, but it is a part of the game, unfortunately. It absolutely is awful, but then again, it is a part of the game, sadly, especially in 24. We do have very bunched up top 8 and a very bunched up bottom 8. As of right now, there's not too many overtakes going on, and even if there are, they're going to be usually just swaps, as the drivers tend to do that with the DRS. Closest thing we've got going on to a fight as of right now is Crowley Voice trying to somehow overtake Ocean Chief, who is trying to defend his P5 in a Ferrari. And as of right now, of course, John Wick will overtake Eversnax again once they reach the finish line. But then again, there's a very small gap between John Wick and Simo Soares, sorry. So maybe this is going to be a chance. Prost gets a free second time penalty for multiple warnings, and Crowley Voice heads himself up into P5. As we head into turn 1, Eversnax under pressure. John Wick heads to his left side, and he does make an overtake. Sim Soares also trying to make it work around the outside. He does not have enough pace yet. He's going to go down the inside on the McLaren. Not enough as well, as Eversnax holds on to P2. And now Sim Soares is going to be under pressure from Vlad Red, who is getting closer towards Haas, as Icewind has left the session. He was a spectator, I believe. And now Haas gets a free second time penalty for track valuation. This is huge, because penalties will be a huge deal here in Qatar. Even one single penalty can ruin your whole race, and this could be the case for the Haas driver Sim Soares, who just picked up his first penalty of the day, And as of right now, even despite crossing the finish line third, he would be demoted out of the podium zone. Keyboard Magnussen again with the penalty for 3 seconds, as we're down with 6 laps of the Qatar Grand Prix. I can see a small gap was trying to build there by Sim Soares, but he can't build the gap over Vlad Red because of Eversnax right ahead of him. So it's basically like a gambit where they just can't do anything. They just have to wait for the opponent's mistake and capitalize on them. And as of right now, not many mistakes except for those of track valuation limits. Again, we head down the main straight. Eversnax will most likely commit to attacking John Wick for the lead as he now switches to the left. John Wick heads to the right. Sim Soares also wants to fight for the lead. And Kenny, very close to John Wick, even pushing him a bit, but it's all fair and square as Sim Soares goes up into P2 ahead of Eversnax. Nice fight between the guys in the top as of right now. The bottom 8, in the meantime, managed to somehow get a bit more thinner, as we now have Joel, who has pulled away from Futuristic. Keyboard is still on the back of him with Wizowil, then Prost and Boosted Mess. Magnetic and Larson still out of the contention, as we have Crowley Voice getting closer towards Vlad Red, maybe now looking for a fight for P4, as he managed to overtake Ocean Chief a while ago, and I can see now that also the second Portuguese, João Santos, has also managed to overtake Ocean Chief up, and he got into P6 ahead of the Ferrari driver. So Ocean Chief has dropped 2 positions in a span of a couple of previous laps. So it's not the best situation for Ferrari, especially considering they were the championship leader in the constructors before this Grand Prix has started, and they might not leave from this country as leaders, as João Santos picks up a 3-second time penalty. That's gonna impact Haas incredibly hard, not only for Sim Soares as of right now, but also for João Santos, as he's now been given a 3-second time penalty for track limit violation. It's a great news for Ocean Chief, as Eagle Ghost is slowly dropping out of the DRS zone. Does he have a DRS on this lap? He does not, and that's going to put him under pressure from Joel 8, who uses his opportunity and goes up into 8th position. And now they are not going to have a DRS range of Ocean Chief. In the meantime, João Santos has also managed to make some kind of mistake, because he's also dropped away from the DRS range of the top 5, and that leaves us with only top 5 fighting for the win right now, with Sim Soares becoming the new leader of the Qatar Grand Prix. Of course, it's only temporary as of right now due to the penalty, but still, nonetheless, Sim Soares in Haas is leading the Qatar Grand Prix, followed by John Wick. A bit of a slip up right there from the Haas, but he managed to keep it cool and safe and sound, as John Wick is again looking for his opponent's mistake, with Eversnax also sitting in P3, waiting patiently. Vlad Red right behind the McLaren. He has been probably the most patient of them all, sitting in at P4 for quite a while, only waiting for his opponent's mistake. Crowley Voice very managed to do a well job done, gaining 2 places from the race start. And João Santos managed to close the gap towards Crowley Voice, and now him and Ocean Chief are rejoining the Snake, while Joel 8 has been doing the great work, finally overtaking Eagle Ghost, is now getting closer towards the top 7. This could be a great opportunity for the Red Bull driver, who is now closing in on the top. Another main straight, another position swap in the lead. John Wick is back into the lead again, with Soares going second, and now Vlad Red is under pressure from Crowley Voice. Can the Alpine make it count? Not as of right now, but he was very close. He might still try it, but not in here. We do have some overtakes in the back, as Prost and Boosted Mess were swapping positions. Crowley Voice trying to put Vlad Red under some pressure, but the Aston Martin driver keeps his cool and does not give in as of right now. He's now trying to attack Eversnax, but the McLaren is still very patient. Crowley Voice being right behind them. The gaps are very small, but overtaking here is not as important. It's important to keep your strategy well guided and get this all the way through to the end of the race. Let's take a look at some position swaps, shall we? We got John Wick, who is still leading the race since it's begun. Soares has gained the position, overtaking Eversnax, who of course dropped 1 position. Vlad Red, Crowley Voice, and Ocean Chief all picked up 1 place. That is, of course, position of Lepson. 2 positions gained for João Santos, and 4 position gain for Joel 8. 1 position down for Eagle Ghost. 7 positions gained for Keyboard Magnussen. Of course, he's got a penalty. He's not in the points just yet, but that's a great run from him so far. Futuristic, 5 positions up, going up to P11. Wizowil and Boosted Mess all gained 1 place. Prost dropped 2. As Eagle Ghost is making his first stop of the race, also making him the first driver to head into the pit stop in this GP on lap 10. Talking about the pit stop, let's take a look at some tire situation. What are we dealing with? As Eagle Ghost picked up a fresh set of hard tires, and except for that, everybody else was also on the mediums, except for Larson. The second Williams is, as of right now, in P15 on a set of hard tire, and everyone else is on the mediums. So it's basically the race about who's going to be able to keep his tires in best condition all the way through, and who's going to have the most battery at the end of the race, because this race is all about a strategy and the least amount of penalties as possible. The more penalties you pick up, the smaller chances for even good position, not even winning, because winning is surely out of your league. The chances are getting smaller as we're done with 10 laps of the Qatar Grand Prix. John Wick still leading us through, followed by Simo Soares, Eversnax, Vlad Red, Crowley Voice, Ocean Chief, João Santos, Joel 8, Keyboard Magnussen now up into P9, and Futuristic closing the pointing positions as of right now. The bottom 10 are still Wizzowil, Prost, Mess, Magnetek, Larson, and Eagle Ghost, with Lepson sadly retiring due to internet connection issues. We do have some pit stops as Vlad Red and Ocean Chief both head into the pits. Is anyone else going to come in this lap? No one from the top 10, so those could be crucial decisions. A bit of early pit stop for those guys. We'll see how this is going to turn up. Sorry, it's not Ocean Chief, it's Crowley Voice who made a pit stop alongside Vlad Red of the Alpine. So we'll see how this is going to play out for them. And it's important to note they have both picked up a fresh, hard compound of tires, while Simo Soares gets a second 3 seconds time penalty. This is going to be massive for the Haas driver, who was looking very strong, very promising since we started the race. But the further we go, it's getting even worse for the Haas Portuguese drivers. Simo Soares is now standing on 6 seconds worth of penalties. This is surely going to impact this race heavily on the finish line, as Ocean Chief is now in the contention for podium. Of course, that is if you exclude the both drivers who managed to come into the pits recently. Those are Crowley Voice and Vlad Red. We'll see which strategy is going to be better, the early stop or the later stop. As of right now, the top boys are still holding on with their pit stops. Those are Eversnax, who is now leading the race again, John Wick in second, Soares in third, Ocean Chief in fourth, and Santos in top 5. And we do have pit stops. Here they come. Eversnax is coming into the pits, leaving John Wick as the race leader. Same for Sim Soares, who is now into the pits, followed by Ocean Chief and his teammate João Santos. Is this going to be a Haas double stack? Can they somehow work it out? Let's see. João Santos, where is he? He's into the pits, followed by his teammate. He's waiting. He was waiting. It was awful decision for Haas. They managed to go for a double stack, but they failed utterly. João Santos was held up by his teammate. He was in a good position. He's now going to lose a lot of time. It was awful decision. Not sure if the Haas are communicating through, because that looked like absolute no communication from the Haas, as João Santos leaves the pits in P14. For comparison, his teammate who made a stop on the same lap is P11, as Prost gets a 3 second time penalty.
Oh, and there goes Boosted Mess around the track. He spun in sector 2. I don't know why. It could be dirty air or just tire wear. He has 11 laps old mediums, and they're start to losing grip. He fall back about 6 seconds. It's a huge gap. Now the front two Kicksaubers are giving each other slipstream. I think they're very close each other. And João Santos and Eagle Ghost each gets a 3 second time penalty. That's gonna make a huge impact on their standings.
Absolutely, as John Wick makes his pit stop appearance, but Keyboard Magnussen does not, which means that with those circumstances, despite having all these penalties and starting from the back, Keyboard Magnussen is leading the Qatar Grand Prix as of right now. Larson also stayed out, so he's in P2, and same for Magnetic, who is P3. And Eversnax, and now going to be fighting Crowley Voice for P4. This is important because they might be actually racing for the win as of right now, and Prost has retired in the pit lane, so we've lost one of the V-Carb drivers. And Eversnax was pushing for Crowley, but Crowley was too fast for him there. And now Vlad Red is going to try to put Eversnax under pressure. The McLaren has to be thinking about this. Ooh, close to a slip up from him.
Looks like the pressure is
And
working.
yeah, absolutely. And the tire situation is this. Everybody is going for fresh hearts. Nobody experimenting except for those one Williams. And Boosted Mess, he's still on old mediums and he's slowing down heavily. A lot of guys behind him, including John Wick, who was one of the favorites to win the race. He's now in a very difficult spot. This could be one of the most important moments of this GP, as John Wick is held up by Boosted Mess. And let's be honest, the more time he spends behind his opponent, the more time he wastes. He has to get past the V-Carb as soon as possible and start to catch up to the drivers ahead of him, as Boosted Mess is now almost 2 seconds behind Vlad Red. And it's another penalty for Sim Soares from Haas, as Magnetic makes his pit stop appearance, and same for Boosted Mess, but John Wick has wasted more than enough time behind the V-Carb. It's going to put him in an awful position. He was one of the favorites to win this race, and as of right now, it's not looking that strong as of right now. Once Keyboard Magnussen and Larson, who are still two of the three drivers, now only 2 out of 2 drivers, as Boosted Mess has made a pit stop, are the only drivers to make a pit stop yet. Futuristic picks up the penalty. So once Larson, Keyboard Magnussen will make their obligatory pit stop, Eversnax will be once again leading the race. Futuristic gets a 10-second in the pit lane. What happened there?
I think Futuristic just threw into the pit lane and he retired there.
So Futuristic is done. We've lost one of the Williams drivers, as the second one is still running high. Of course, that's because he didn't make a pit stop quite about yet, but he's still looking good in this moment as Eversnax. He will be leading the race once the top 2 will pit. Crowley Voice is basically racing him now for the win, and Vlad Red, who was P5 all the way as of right now, after Keyboard and Larson pit stop, will be in a podium contention because of Haas's penalties and because of John Wick wasting all his time behind Boosted Mess. Boosted Mess really set it up a nice podium battle for Vlad Red. Crowley Voice and Eversnax cutting off John Wick from the battle. Of course, not intentionally, but that's the way it is, as João Santos picks up another 3-second penalty. And you have to be thinking what it could have been for Haas if it wasn't for those penalties and that dreadful pit stop decision, because that flipped the whole race for them inside out, as Crowley Voice has managed to overtake Eversnax. So now once Keyboard and Larson will pit, he'll become a new leader for the Qatar Grand Prix. But Keyboard Magnussen, because Larson's on a hard tire, but Keyboard Magnussen staying out on 14 lap old mediums is actually quite impressive. We saw Boosted Mess struggling on 11 lap old mediums, and Keyboard is now on 14 lap old mediums, still pushing strong, still sitting at P1, leading this race. John Wick doing everything he can to close the gap towards Vlad Red, but with these 3 guys having constant DRS and slipstream, there's not too much the Mercedes can do except push all the way through. Ocean Chief dropped by, and he's not going to have a DRS as of right now from John Wick. He has to use some of that battery to close the gap. And a lot of penalties on that board. We got Joel with penalties, Sim Soares and João Santos, both Hasses with penalties. We got Eagle Ghost and Keyboard Magnussen. A lot of drivers with penalties. And Keyboard Magnussen stays out again. What is this strategy from the Kick Sauber? I have no idea what he's going for. But this is going to be fun to watch, surely, as Larson is still on the track, but he's on harder compound. Wizzawell, Keyboard's teammate, gets a free second-time penalty. And Crowley Voice sets the fastest time of the session right now. And it's on a hard compound. Interesting, because he was on the mediums before, but he didn't have enough freedom when it comes to traffic. So now he's finally delivering some good times. Eversnax is hunting him down with Vlad Red on his tail. John Wick not really closing the gaps, the boys ahead of him, as Ocean Chief has caught up to John Wick and is now going to push hard to stick behind the Mercedes to pick up a slipstream and a DRS. As so far, Sim Soares and João Santos are record holders for penalties. They're both on the 9s. Keyboard Magnussen with 6 seconds worth of penalties. 3 seconds are Eagle Ghost, Wizzowell, and Joel. Those are drivers with only 3 seconds worth of penalties. Only a couple of drivers avoiding the penalties at all so far. And I'm wondering if Keyboard Magnussen will make a pit stop at the end of this lap, because surely those tires has to be dying out eventually. I mean, there should be dead for quite a few laps. And if Keyboard Magnussen can actually somehow use this strategy to his advantage, that would be insane, as he avoids pit stop once again. The tire whisperer is still running strong, as the another has. It's another penalty for Sim Soares. And even Larson, who was on harder compound, is finally given up. He says, okay, I'm done, Keyboard. You can have this trophy of staying out the longest. I'm going in the pits. And now Keyboard Magnussen, who is still leading the Qatar Grand Prix, is the only man, the one man standing, who hasn't made a pit stop in this race. At this point, he has to be hoping and praying for a safety car. There's nothing else that can save his race. He's like, okay, screw it. Maybe a random SC or at least a VSC will pop up, and then I can keep this lead. And it's actually pretty great strategy, because at this point, when you were starting from the back, with those penalties, there's not much you can do. Surely safety car will not help you with the penalties, but it'll help you with the tires. Because as of right now, Keyboard is defenseless against guys or on quicker compound, as Eversnacks has overtaken Crowley once again, and Magnetic also joining the penalty boys clap as he picks up a 3 seconds for himself. And it's now really a few drivers who were able to avoid picking up penalties all the way in his Grand Prix, as we're now down with lap 17 as Eversnacks catching Keyboard Magnussen. The gap is starting to decrease heavily now that Eversnacks doesn't have anybody in front of him, and Keyboard is just absolutely defenseless on these tires. The gap was over 7 seconds half a lap ago, and it's now down underneath 7 seconds. So this should be a matter of not when, no, sorry, not if, but when will Crowley or Eversnacks overtake Keyboard. As Crowley and Eversnacks are fighting again, we have some yellow flags on the main straight. What caused that? The cause of that is Soares. I don't know what's going on with there, but Soares has lost plenty of time and momentum. There's actually a pretty decent fight between the guys with the penalties, as Eagle Ghost was defending from Wizawell. Wizawell is under pressure from João Santos. We can actually switch to those guys because the fight in front does not really matter as of right now. And in the midfield, we got some action. Here comes João Santos down the inside of Wizawell, pushing him a bit of the track, but still keeping it mostly clean. And he picks up a position as he goes up into P9, now hunting down Eagle Ghost.
Ooh, that
Huge
was a
moment for
huge collision.
Santos. Yeah, that
Whistle
was.
almost crashed out Joe Santos.
I mean, that was very close for Santos. Somehow, some way, he kept it on the track. He really got. He had a great pace in the qualifying. He had a great momentum from the get-go. But as this race progresses, it just keeps getting worse for João Santos. And the fact that Sim Soares is now P11, while Santos was held up by him in the pits, it just shows how much potential has had going into this race. But they just absolutely bottle it, as it is in SLR that has very much enjoys the qualifying session, but they bottle every race. And as I'm saying this, Santos is picking up another penalty. It's now 12 seconds for both Haas drivers, as Keyboard Magnussen picks up his 9th second worth of penalty, and Wizard will make an overtake for P9. The gap between Keyboard and Eversnacks is now only 4.5 seconds, as Sim Soares is coming to the pit lane to retire. One of the two Portuguese Haas drivers is done with the race. That means we're left with only 14 drivers on the grid. Joel picks up a second penalty of the race. And now the only drivers with no penalties are Boosted Mess, Larson, Ocean Chief, John Wick, Vlad Red, Crowley Voice, and Eversnacks. Everybody else either has a penalty or has already retired from the race. So that is one heck of a race when it comes to penalties. Not so much when it comes to action, but not every race is all about that. Every race is important in its own matter. This one is important for the title, as Eversnacks could build a huge advantage over Lepson in the Drivers' Championship once this race is done. Keyboard Magnussen barely being ahead of Eversnacks. Eversnacks can already see him very nice and clean. 2 seconds worth of gap remaining for Keyboard Magnussen, and this gap is decreasing very, very quickly. As Eversnacks is on the rundown, Crowley Voice right behind him, Vlad Red still being able to hold on to them. And John Wick, actually, we have to praise this guy because he managed to close the gap that was about 2 seconds towards the rest of the field, and he's now back in the top despite being held up by Boosted Mess for quite a while back then in the midfield. He's now back into the top, and back in the contention for even possibly winning the Qatar Grand Prix. So it's a great run from the Mercedes driver, as Ocean Chief is still right behind him, holding up nicely in P6. And then it's the only real fight that we got going on right now. The whole midfield is now split from each other as Joel 8 picks up another penalty, and Eversnax has finally caught up to Keyboard Magnussen with less than 10 laps to go. The McLaren will surely try to make this pass as safe as possible to not risk any kind of possible disaster for himself, as he doesn't really have to try too hard to pass very much slower Keyboard, who is on basically rims at this point. There is no rubber left on these tires, but he's still somehow going, somehow holding on. There's no point doing that anymore, my friends. Even if the safety car will pop up, 9 seconds will not help you at all. And there it is, Keyboard Magnussen into the pits.
Just for comparison, he has 19 laps old mediums, and the oldest hards we have on the grid right now. No, I'm correct. Correction, 20 lap old mediums, and the oldest hards we have on the grid right now is Eagle. So Eagle goes with 11 laps old hards, but Keyboard Magnussen is going for softs. He is trying to make the move.
Yeah, it's a gamble that he has to pick up with those 9 seconds applied. The best he can do is just pick up a fresh soft and just push them all the way through hell. There's nothing else he can do. So now with Keyboard out of the contention, we've got Eversnax, Crowley Voice, John Wick, Ocean Chief, and Vlad Red. Despite the fact this race didn't have too many important overtakes, it'll have one heck of a finish, because those top 5 drivers has been close to the top for basically the whole race, and this might be the case all the way through to the finish line, which would mean that 5 drivers will be fighting for the win all the way down to the finish line. This would be a huge finish if that's gonna be the case.
I absolutely agree with you. I wonder if Eversnax could potentially build up a big enough gap between him and Crawley Voice. Or, do you think? Or, Jesus Christ, that's so annoying. Or, he relies on desync, and maybe the Crawley Voice gets in desync, and he falls so much back behind Eversnax that he doesn't get any DRS anymore.
Yeah, that is a possibility, of course, when we include desync, because without it, it's gonna be impossible for Eversnax to build this big of a gap, unless Crowley Voice will make some kind of silly mistake on his own, because if he does, then surely, but if he doesn't, Crowley Voice will stick up behind Eversnax, because it's so hard to pull away and build a gap here in Qatar. This is basically Vegas track style, because you just can't pull away from your opponent. If he does have DRS on you, you just can't build a gap over him, as we saw it multiple times during this race. So this could go down to the wire between the top 5. The midfield is spread very much thinner as of right now, as we have Joel being 5 seconds behind the top 5, being 8 seconds ahead of Eagle Ghost, being who is 2 seconds ahead of Wizawil, who is 1.5 ahead of João Santos, who is 5 seconds clean of Larson. And so far, when it comes to our penalties championships, João Santos is the leader, standing at 15 seconds worth of penalties, with Joel being second with 12 seconds worth of penalties. Then we got 9 seconds from Keyboard Magnussen and 3 seconds from Eagle Ghost, Wizawil, and Magnetic.
Oh, and there's a huge fallback from the Crawley Voice. I don't know what happened. Maybe he had a big desync from the game, or just a big mistake, but I couldn't know why. Because he was on a pretty long, no, not straight, but and he kisses the flag of John Wick. That's gonna ruin the race for Crawley Voice. But John Wick falls back because of desync. That is so annoying. And Joe Santos also with a 3-second time penalty.
Yeah, and this is a great chance for Eversnax. Look at this. Look at the gap. It's almost over 1 second. If he can somehow build it over 1 second, this would be a game over for the rest of the grid as he realizes that pushing all the way through 0.9 worth of gap, trying to pull away, but he can't really do too much. Even having 0.9 worth of gap, still Crowley Voice is somehow holding on to the DRS range, and he will have it on the main straight. If ever Snacks would have used this situation and somehow escaped from 1 second gap, this would have been over, but it's still not. We're still in close contention for the win. John Wick sent diabolically low to P4 from P2 after awful desync, and he's now going to try to bring some positions up, but he can't do it quite yet. There he goes down the inside of Ocean Chief, and he's going to win the position. Ocean Chief trying to win it back, very tight, but the Mercedes is up back into P3. Now looking for possible fight with the P2 sitter Crowley Voice, as Ocean Chief sits behind and watches as Vlad Red almost dropped out of the DRS range, but he's still somehow holding on. The top 5 still being incredibly close to each other.
So Eversnax couldn't keep the gap big enough, or improving the gap. Crawley Voice is already at the back of his car. He will gonna make the move on the main straight. And there are only a few laps left. There are only 4.5 laps left. And yeah, it will be very intense for Eversnack and Crawley Voice. Also John Wick with Ocean Chief and... what's the name?
Vlad Red, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vlad Red. Thank you.
And we have a new high score on our minigame bonus as João Santos picked up 21 seconds worth of penalties, which means that despite being P9 at the moment, he would finish at least 11th, and Boosted Mess, who is 22 seconds behind 11th Larson, is still in the game for at least P11, maybe even some points, as he is trying to catch up to Magnussen. So despite being 20 seconds behind 11th position, Boosted Vest is somehow still in the game for points. Incredible.
But you have to keep in mind that the softs are going to lose grip very fast from now on. They're already 4 laps old, and I don't think Magnussen is handling the softs gently. I think he's throwing the softs all around the track.
Yeah, absolutely. As we just have to, as of right now, just lean back and wait for the final moments of the race while watching if someone will make another mistake or a desync will make another silly move, as we are waiting for the final moments of this GP. We don't expect too many changes in the midfield, that is unless the penalties will be applied, then we can see some shifts. And now we're just waiting for those final moments on the final laps to see who will win the Qatar Grand Prix, as they're now beginning lap 26 out of 29. Crowley Voice Never Snacks still exchanging the lead of the race, and we still don't know is any one of those two is going to win the race. Here comes John Wick reminding of himself, going up into P2. Nicely done, getting ahead of Crowley Voice. And now looking for a possible fight with Ever Snacks. So the top 3, Ever Snacks, John Wick, and Crowley, are looking absolutely great right now. But don't count out either Ocean Chief or Vlad Red. They're still in the fight for the win. And every one of those top 5 drivers can pick up a victory once he is quick enough. Keyboard Magnussen overtakes João Santos for P9. The Haas driver will try to fight back for the position, but he cannot regain it from faster Keyboard right now. He will try one more time down the inside, and there he goes. João Santos with position gain once again. Larson right at the back of those two, waiting patiently for the penalties to be applied and pick up a point for his efforts, as Keyboard and Santos are still going at it. Even despite having multiple seconds of penalties, it's just pure racing at this point. It is for pure fun, and that's absolutely beautiful. As Ever Snacks is still leading us, heading into lap 27 out of 29. This is where every even small mistake is absolutely crucial. Smallest error in here can make it very much sufferable at the finish line. With only 3 laps to go in this Grand Prix, here comes John Wick and he's finally back into the lead after being held up by Boosted Mess. After having some issues with desync, the Mercedes is back into the lead, and João Santos has now 24 seconds worth of penalties.
Just
Wow.
a reminder, if you get 30 seconds worth of time penalties, you're gonna get disqualified.
At this point, I think the only difference would be that he would finish 13th instead of 12th. I'm not even sure if I think Magnetic does have a shot at overtaking him as well. So at this point, Zhao is just racing for pure fun and entertainment, and that's actually really sick as he's racing Keyboard Magnussen side by side once again. Those guys are just having a picnic down there, while the top are trying to stay focused. John Wick doing a great work of building small gap over Eversnacks to zero point 0.5 worth of seconds. Eversnacks decreasing it the moment he's gonna get a taste of that slipstream and a sip of that DRS. He's gonna close the gap immediately. Crowley Voice still sitting right behind them. Ocean Chief close to the top three, still hoping for some kind of mistake of his opponents to pick up a podium. And Vlad Red still in a comfortable top 5 position, as John Wick is really battling through anything they've thrown at him. In this race, 2 laps to go. Eversnacks will surely make a move as of right now for the lead. He will, he does, he is back into the lead of this Grand Prix, which means that for the final lap, Eversnacks will be leading heading into the main straight, but John Wick will have the DRS. This could be crucial. I mean, it will be crucial depending on who you ask, whether John Wick prefers to defend the position or attack it with the usage of the DRS, and then hold on to the lead for one final lap. This is basically a matter of preference. Do you prefer to attack with the DRS or defend from someone who does have a DRS and a slipstream? I mean, if the consistency will keep up with overtaking into the first corner and then holding on, because you have a lot more space after the finish line into the first corner than just for the final corner to the finish line. So it's actually a pretty decent situation for John Wick, who is second right now, but he will have a DRS and a slipstream on Eversnacks on the final main straight. Unless Crowley Voice can do something about it. I don't think he can do too much as of right now. He can only try to put him under pressure, but John Wick does not feel the pressure in Qatar at any given moment. He was on pole, he was battling through all the odds, and he's still a favorite to win this race. As here we go for the final corner, and this is crucial. As Eversnacks, the McLaren driver, opens up the final lap of the Qatar Grand Prix, John Wick has to make a move into turn 1. Here he goes, DRS wide open, slipstream used. There he goes, does the move, closes the door on Eversnacks, and he's now leading the Qatar Grand Prix once again, which can be for the final time, as this is final lap, and Eversnacks will not have many better opportunities for overtake. Huge
Oh!
mistake! 3 seconds for McLaren. It's an awful mistake for Eversnacks, who was under pressure, and the pressure got to him. Crowley Voice, Ocean, and Vlad Red are now basically, hey, this is an easy chance for better position. Here they go. As Vlad Red, in the meantime, has dropped 1.5 behind Ocean Chief. He's out of the podium fight, but Ocean Chief, the gates of heaven have opened for him as he was P4, second behind Crowley, but now he's very much in the contention for podium. All he has to do is keep the same pace and don't screw it up. As Crowley Voice realizes he does still have a chance for win, but he does not have the pace to close the gap on John Wick. Eversnacks is now basically defenseless. He can't do anything. He is powerless. He can't do anything to John Wick unless John Wick makes a mistake himself. And even if he does overtake him, Wick will still come out on top as they go for the final corner. He was brilliant from the get-go. He's brilliant on the finish line. The Mercedes driver, John Wick, wins in Qatar as Eversnacks gets demoted from the penalties. Crowley Voice is on podium with Ocean Chief, and Eversnacks get dropped all the way down to P4, half a second ahead of Vlad Red, who's going to finish P5. Joel 8 on the finish line for P6, and now we're waiting for all the penalties to be applied, as Eagle Ghost has just overtook Joel for P6. Joel down to P7, Wizawil finishing in P8. Keyboard and Santos are coming in, but it's going to be Larson picking up that 2 points for finishing P9. Keyboard is P10 so far, and I don't think it's going to change as Magnetic was 22 seconds behind them with the penalty. Same for Boosted Mess. So the top 10 would be John Wick, Crowley Voice, Ocean Chief for the podium, Eversnacks, Vlad Red, Eagle Ghost, Joel 8, Wizawil, Larson, and Keyboard Magnussen closing the pointing position.
It was an absolute fantastic race today here in Qatar, and sadly, well, the game tells us Magnussen. Okay, yeah. So sadly, Lepson didn't have time to set a proper lap because of EA just kicking him out every time. It's so annoying.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely heartbreaking for Lepson, the fact that he just couldn't do anything in the race. He definitely had some potential heading into Qatar, but he just couldn't show it to us. So yeah, he's gonna finish the race with no points at all. Eversnacks will still take this P4 very happily, as he will definitely increase the gap in the championship lead and definitely will leave Qatar as a new sole championship leader for this season of Tier 2. And John Wick will heavily improve over Keyboard Magnussen, will also close the gap towards Lepson. I'm not sure if Lepson will even hold on to his P2 after John Wick has won the race. I'm gonna have to check the results for that. But still, great race for John Wick, great race for Eversnacks and McLaren. It's an awful race for Lepson, if you can even call the race, and at least for the Ferrari, Ocean Chief picked up a P3, so he's actually managed to finish ahead of Eversnacks, which means that Ferrari will still be Constructors' Championship leaders after Qatar. And now we'll see if anybody would like to share his thoughts about the race with us in the interview section as I'm about to close my game. We do have Eversnacks already waiting in there, so let's just bring him in as he just can't wait to share his thoughts. Hello.
Hello there.
What have you done? What the heck have you done?
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Oh my goodness. We were like, they can't screw it up unless they want it themselves, and I just see 3 seconds penalty for Eversnacks. And I'm like, how? Why?
Yeah, I saw the victory in my grasp, and I was like, I gotta push now, and I pushed just that tiny bit too much. You know how it is on Qatar. So easy to get the time penalty. I think you saw it from the other drivers today. But yeah, bit of a shame. I've honestly, I'm not that mad about it. It's just 6 points. It could have been 7 points more if I had overtaken him on that final lap. So honestly, almost worth it. Almost.
Yeah, absolutely. But still, it's got to be a good race for you. I mean, you're going to gap over Lepson, which of course he sadly couldn't participate in the race. But yeah, at the end of the day, points matter, and it's going to be some huge points for you, right?
Yeah, it's a shame for Lepson. You know, this isn't the way you want to be gaining points on your championship rival. But yeah, well, I'm also just sure he would have been up there with us as well. So yeah, shame for him. I'm not gonna complain about taking points. I'm not gonna complain about building a lead up there. And you know, it was a fun race still, lots of fighting. I had lots of fun swapping positions with Crawley Voice all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And this race was basically all about the strategy, despite the fact that 90% of the grid went with the same idea. But we saw some experiments. Were you thinking about some kind of different strategy for at least a second, like maybe switching
Yes,
some tire compounds or different timing for the pit stop? What are your plans initially?
yes. It was always my plan to go medium hard, but I did heavily consider starting on hards, and I think that if I had gone for the hards, I would have run the race today because everybody was fighting after the pit stops, and if I had had just that clean air out in front for a while, I think I would have taken it by quite a margin. The hard medium was the faster strategy today, but I didn't want to be dropped right at the start of the race, so that's why I went with the mediums.
Understandable. All right, so that's it when it comes to this race. The next one, we're gonna go racing in 2nd of January after the Christmas break, and it's gonna be Spain. What do you feel like about Spanish Grand Prix?
I am pretty sure you can tell what I feel about Spain if you just take the S away. Yeah, it's not a bad track. I don't hate it that much. It's quite technical. It's a bit slow, but I think the changes they made to the track did improve it, and I'm okay driving there. It's not my favorite track by a large margin, but yeah, should be okay. And at least it's not. Well, I'm looking at the calendar. I'm just not gonna keep talking.
All right, absolutely. So thank you for your time. Congratulations on the result and extending the championship lead. And see you next time.
All right, thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Goodbye.
All right, and this is all when it comes to Qatar. Not a lot to talk about this race, honestly, so I'm not surprised we don't have a whole line queue going up to us. This is gonna be a Christmas break for Tier 2, as the next time those guys are gonna be racing is gonna be 2nd of January, like we mentioned before, in Spain. So make sure to tune in for that race. As of right now, that would be it from us. So, in the name of SLR, to anybody who is following Tier 2, I would like to